It's so important to for people to hear stories that are outside of what society prescribes to us as normal and real and possible. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I would. So stories like the one that you told me about are medicine and nourishment to me. So I'd love to just to listen and hear your story.
Sure. So my son was in college and he was 22 years old and he was diagnosed with stage 4 testicular cancer. It was one of the fastest growing cancers. And how his particular cancer was diagnosed was that it starts in him. It started in the left testicle, metastasized to the kidneys, the lungs, and then it goes to the brain. So they gave him 6 months to live. Um, we went to two different oncology places. The first idea was the doctors were going to open him up surgically from stern to groin, pull out all the tumors, and then spray him down with chemo. And then I think it was 15 weeks of chemo and followed by radiation. The second oncology place said, "No, we're going to do 15 months of chemo. Then we'll open you up sternum to groin, pull out any tumors are left, and then we'll do another 15 rounds of chemo." So that's kind of what my son was looking at, and he didn't want to do it. Fortunately, about 2 weeks before he was diagnosed, I'd gone to a seminar. I don't know if you or anybody out there knows Thomas Levy. And Thomas Levy is an MD based out in Colorado at the time, and he actually lost his medical license for curing cancer with vitamin C. So I called him up and he said, "Oh, yeah, that's no problem. I'll give you the recipe." So he said, "Look, you're going to give him 50 grams of vitamin C in an IV. I want you to run it for let the drip, allow it to drip for 3.5 hours. And then when you get to the very end of the IV, I want you to add in 1 cc of glutathione. You're going to have to do this now every other day for 3 weeks, and he should be just fine." So we've got the CT scan, we've got the blood test. So we at those times you couldn't really get a vitamin C. Back in 2006, it was tough around Spartanburg. You couldn't get a vitamin C IV, but a friend of mine found me the vitamin C, and another friend uh, hooked my son up. And I must say, I've been practicing holistic medicine now for over 35 years. I didn't know much about cancer, so I was really scared. And this is my boy. But we went ahead. My son went ahead. We did the 3.5 weeks of vitamin C IV, and then my son went back to the hospital, and they did another CT scan, did a blood test, and there were no tumors, no sign of cancer anywhere.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
I mean, stage 4 is basically like you're gonna die. Basically, if you're
Right.
stage 4, right?
Yeah, they
And
gave him
maybe
6 months.
yeah,
So right now, 17 years later, he's hiking the Appalachian Trail.
yeah. I mean, there's a huge disadvantage though to this type of therapy, which is that there really isn't any money in it. Vitamin C
Yeah,
costs cost pennies, a few dollars maybe for that amount of vitamin C.
yeah. In
Uh,
2008, it costs $8 an IV.
yeah.
Chemotherapy at that time, we were looking at 1.2 million
Yep.
by the time it was
So,
all
this kind of thing is really bad for the economy. And,
right.
but I'm kind of joking here, but the other thing, why is it so hard for people to accept this possibility? It's
I
because,
can tell.
yeah, tell me your perspective.
Oh,
Yeah.
cancer. One thing and I've treated so many people for years. And one of my first things I would tell my patients would be, okay, so first of all, we got to change the language because cancer is a morphic field of death. It means death. And it's been advertised that way. People have been marched off, this is it. We're going to go after it with the chemical poisons and we're going to do surgeries but cancer's bad. That's how we look at it. The way I look at cancer, first of all, I tell people all it is severe inflammation. So there's something here. It could be heavy metals. It could be a virus. It could be a fungus. It could be a million and one things. It could be emotional. But something has caused your body to go into a severe inflammatory state. So we're going to find the cause, and then we're going to treat the cause, and then the inflammation will go away. So we got to remove the word cancer. But unfortunately, it's a morphic field. It's another word for death all over the world because of the sales pitch that's been going on for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the word.
Does
So
that answer the question? I don't know if that
yeah,
answers.
I have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like a morphic field, like you were saying, and it's a receptacle for the projection of all of our fear,
right,
and our helplessness.
Yes,
and it is also, the story like yours is very challenging because it starts to disintegrate the entire worldview that contains cancer in that role, serving that function, serving that as a receptacle of our fear, as a projection screen for our fear. And if what you say is true, if that actually happened, it means that everything that we know is wrong. It means that institutions that are venerated and revered by society with a quasi-religious faith called science, called medicine, that they have an infirm foundation. And if this is true, if your story is true, and people have so many ways to exclude it from the circle of truth. It was coincidence. It's just an anecdote. The diagnosis was wrong, et cetera, et cetera. They've all kinds. It must have been something.
Yeah.
And if you show them the CAT scans, they'll be like, well, that doesn't prove anything. And it's just N of one. It's just one case. I mean, they'll have many. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They'll have many defenses to prevent this disruptive data point from entering their delusion, which is really what it is. It's a delusion.
Yeah, the oncologist called me up and he said, this is a Monday morning. He calls me at my office and he says, where's your son? I said, what do you mean, where's my son? He said, he's supposed to be here for chemotherapy. I said, but there's no sign of cancer. The second CT scan. He said, what? So he goes, I've got him on speakerphone. I've got a bunch of patients in the waiting room. So I put him on speakerphone and I said, he comes back and he says, I don't care what that CT scan says, and I don't care what the blood test says. Your boy still has cancer. And I said, but how do you prove cancer? He said, well, with a CT scan and a blood test. And I said, so that's how you find cancer. And there's no more tumors, and the blood test is clear, but you're saying he still has cancer. And you say, I don't care if you've been giving him paprika. That boy still has cancer and he needs to get in here. And I said, he's not coming.
Wow.
And he said, well, then I'm going to have you arrested for child endangerment. And I said, he's 22 years old. So he's made his own decision. And he said, well, then, Dr. Kevel, you're a murderer. You're going to be in charge of murdering your son. I mean, so even the doctor didn't want to believe it.
What the CT scan says, your boy has cancer.
Right. But when the CT scan said he had, it's a...
Wow.
So the first CT scan, you have cancer. The second CT scan, nothing's on it, but you still have cancer. It's like, what?
Wow.
But see, they can't believe it either.
Right. Like, you can't believe it because it's painful. Like, it's literally painful and devastating to believe something that invalidates your self-conception, your identity, your career, your status in society, your financial income. If cancer can be treated like that, then what does this man's career mean?
Exactly.
So he takes it as a direct assault and therefore responds irrationally.
Right.
Yeah. And this is like, it's easy to say that about this poor oncologist.
Yeah.
But what for me, it's an invitation to look at, how do I do that? What data points will I just exclude because it doesn't fit the story of self and world that I have constructed, and who do I group around me to reinforce those stories? Because really, this is, we're
Really
bringing
good.
this into the Sanity Project, and that oncologist was insane, and it was a normalized insanity that probably his entire department would back him up on.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with an oncologist once. This was about 10 years ago. And I did not know him. He did not know me, but he did say he was an oncologist. So I said, and I didn't say this is a patient, but it was a patient of mine. And I said, look, this friend of mine has had cancer, breast cancer. They removed her breast. She did the chemo, the radiation. Then it came back 5 years later. So they moved the breast, chemo, radiation. Then it went to her stomach and her liver. Sorry about that. More chemo, more radiation. So I won't take too much time telling you, but so I said, so now, they told her, well, call hospice, but we could do this other experimental chemo radiation. So she comes to me. So I said, in your case, what would you do about that? Well, he said, my partners and I, we had our own oncology center. And if it doesn't, our motto was, if it didn't get it the first time, why go back?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't make any money. So we got hired by the big oncology center, and they say chemo and radiate till they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I looked at him and I said, how do you sleep at night? Oh, I sleep just fine. I mean, everybody's got to die, and I've got 2 kids in college, and I got a beach house, and I've got a boat and car payments. Yeah. And, we all have a job, and we all got to pay our bills.
Right.
So it's just exactly what you said a few minutes ago. It's,
Right. So here we are. That's the way the world is. So if you are a renegade, if you are a skeptic, if you are a doubter, you are not merely one of Freud's discontents of civilization. You're what looks like insanity to the conventional society is actually sanity. And your rejection of what so many people take for granted. Like, yeah, if you have cancer, of course you go to the oncologist. I mean, the pressure is intense. I know people who have been, eating organic food, alternative medicine, et cetera, yoga, et cetera, for decades. When they get that diagnosis, they default right back to
without a doubt.
Like their parents, their relatives, their friends, like, oh my God, you're not gonna, do the chemo. It's really the pressure is intense. So thank you for providing this antidote, Kate, to this story.
Yeah. My son also did Gerson therapy too, so a lot of juicing and everything. But do you mind if I say one more thing about
please.
the whole experience?
Yeah.
Walking into the oncology center was a multi-million-dollar lobby and beautiful couches and a waterfall. And this is how we're going to help you, right? Everything's so beautiful, beautiful artwork. And just, and then what else was I going to say? Then we have the holistic that, gosh, we don't have any money. We're doing the best I can to help you. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But anyway, it's kind of about, and then they have the sales pitch. So it's sales 101 is, I'm going to scare you. And then I'm going to tell you a solution. And then I'm going to tell you that we have to do it right away, like right now. You have no time to make a decision because you're dying. Wow. So that's another way that it happens too. The fear is used. So somehow, and I've been working on this for many, many years, is just explain to people, change the verbiage to inflammation, talk about feeding the body, change it up. Like there was a dentist, Dr. Gonzalez, who cured himself of pancreatic cancer. Nobody does that. And he wrote a book that my son and I read. And one of his first statements was, cancer's easier than the common cold. So that's where we want to go. Just keep putting that out there instead of the death